His 22-year-old son was a virgin and exacted revenge for never having kissed a woman.
All of you sexually active men, I hate you. I hate all of you.
However, after brutally ending the lives of 6 people, his father was left as the only person capable of speaking on his behalf.
And my son did that. My son caused so much pain and suffering for so many families.
His ego was huge.
I do everything I can to appear attractive to you. I dress nice. I'm sophisticated. I'm magnificent. I have a nice car, a BMW.
But so was the rejection of women.
I don't know what you don't see in me. I'm the perfect guy. And yet you throw yourselves at all these obnoxious men instead of me, the supreme gentleman.
Until one day came the straw that broke the camel's back.
After spending weeks working out in his room so that he would catch the attention of girls at the party, his ego was squashed when a group of female partygoers rejected him. They were sitting on a ledge, and he fell into a fit of rage and tried to push them off of it. The men in the party charged him, pushing him off the ledge instead. They beat him up and broke his ankle. As he stumbled away, he realized he'd left his designer sunglasses at the party. He was so drunk that he walked into the neighbor's house instead, demanding his sunglasses back. The people inside knew what happened next door and beat him up again. Humiliated, he decided it was time to solidify his plans for the day of retribution.
It all has to come to this. I'm 22 years old, and I'm still a virgin. I've never even kissed a girl. You forced me to suffer all my life, and now I'll make you all suffer.
On May 23, 2014, Elliot Rodger stabbed 3 young men in his home, and then drove to a sorority house where he opened fire on 4 others, mortally wounding 2 women. The case, of course, went around the world. But the suffering caused also involved his father, Peter Rodger.
Mr. Rodger, Elliot was your son, and he is. How do you mourn a child whom others vilify?
It's very hard, Barbara. It's very, very hard. After reading the journal, I had a lot of anger for him. And I think my job now is to try and replace that anger with love and forgiveness. But at the same time, I'm haunted by this disease, this human being that changed and became something else.
Peter's view of his son was wrong. He was a proud father and had no idea of the thoughts that inhabited Elliot's head.
Every night I go to sleep, I wake up, and I think of those young men and young women that and that were injured and were terrorized. And my son did that. My son caused so much pain and suffering for so many families.
When you wake up in the morning, what do you think?
It's like a reverse nightmare situation. When you go to sleep normally, you have a nightmare and you wake up and, oh, everything's okay.
Yeah.
Now I go to sleep, I might have a nice dream. And then I wake up and then slowly the truth of what happened dawns on me. And, that is that my son was a master.
This thought is the one that plagues Peter's mind the most. His son unknowingly turned him into just another villain in the film.
You did not think that Elliot was or certainly not.
There's no way I thought that this boy could hurt a flea. I mean, this is the most unbelievable thing, Barbara. What I don't get is we didn't see this coming at all.
Did you know that he was sick?
No. This is the American horror story, or the world's horror story, is when you have somebody who on the outside is one thing and on the inside is something completely different.
However, beyond sinking into grief, Peter Rodger decided to raise his voice to raise awareness.
There have been numerous school None of the parents of other have spoken with us. Why did you decide that you would speak out?
The only reason I'm here is to tell his story to try and stop this happening again.
As soon as he heard about the tragedy, he took charge and reached out to the families of the victims. He saw in the brutal massacre that his son committed an opportunity to initiate a battle focused on gun control, and the voice of Richard Martinez, the father of one of the deceased, was chosen to spread the message.
It's time to stop the gun violence. Our children deserve a land free from fear. Son, you will live in our hearts forever and ever. If you agree that the people in Washington should hear that not one more person should have to because of this ridiculous situation, then when I raise my hand, I want you to shout so loud that they're going to hear you. Are you with me? Not good enough. One more time, are you with me? Not one more! Not one more!
But of course, behind that relentless struggle lingers hundreds of questions in Peter Rodger's head.
The father of Adam Lanza now says that there are times he wishes his son had never been born. Do you ever feel that way?
That's a really loaded question. That's a loaded question, Barbara. A part of me says yes. And the reason is because he did an awful lot of harm to young men and young women who didn't deserve to. And my son did it.
What Elliot Rodger did made him into some sort of a hero in the eyes of those who idolize his mission. Of course, he was the pioneer of the Incel Rebellion, that group of young men who are involuntarily celibate and who look with hatred on women who don't pay attention to them, and also those who can get along with them. Cases like his have already occurred in other places, such as Enigma in Canada, who took the lives of 10 people after running them over with a van. But of course, behind the suffering of the families of the victims, there is also the pain that the killer generates in those close to him. They are the ones who constantly have to deal with the stigma of knowing that their son is a hated criminal.
Did you know that he was sick?
No. This is the American horror story, or the world's horror story, is when you have somebody who on the outside is one thing and on the inside is something completely different.